September 12, 1943. Camp Hearne, Texas. The train screeches to a halt under a blistering sun. Steam hisses from the brakes, mingling with the cicada drone that fills the dusty air. Through barred windows, faces appear, young, sunburned, and wary. German soldiers, now prisoners, peer out at a landscape they don't recognize. Endless plains, wind-blown grass, and an American flag snapping lazily above the depot. "Rouse," a guard calls, though his accent is thickly American. The doors slide open with a metallic groan. One by one, the prisoners climb down, boots crunching on gravel. Many still wear faded Afrika Korps tunics or Luftwaffe field caps, patched and sun-bleached from months of fighting and capture. Their belts are empty, insignia dulled, pride held together mostly by habit. Among them is Oberfeldwebel Hans Becker, a 28-year-old radio operator from Hamburg. He squints against the light, sweat trickling down his neck. The camp before him, Camp Hearne, known among the guards as the University of the POWs, is a sprawl of wooden barracks surrounded by barbed wire. Guard towers rise at the corners, each manned by U.S. soldiers with slung rifles. But there's an unexpected calm here. The sentries aren't shouting. The Americans look almost casual. As Becker and the others are processed, names, ranks, fingerprints, an officer from the U.S. Army Provost Marshal General's office reads from a clipboard. "You will be treated in accordance with the Geneva Convention. You will not be mistreated. You will be required to work, and you will be compensated for that work." The prisoners exchange incredulous looks. Paid? One mutters under his breath, "American propaganda." Another scoffs, "They'll feed us corn and make us dig trenches." But as they march toward the barracks, they pass a sight that stops them cold. A group of German prisoners, uniforms neatly washed, sleeves rolled up, are tending a vegetable garden just inside the fence. One of them waves. Another calls out in accented English, "Welcome to Texas." That night, Becker lies on a clean mattress with a real pillow for the first time in months. The barracks smell of pine and soap. Outside, the cicadas sing, and the guards chat quietly over coffee. He closes his eyes and realizes, with a strange mix of relief and guilt, that he's safe, truly safe, for the first time since the war began. October 1943. Camp Hearne, Texas. Morning comes with the sharp clang of a bell and the smell of fried eggs drifting through the barracks. Rows of German prisoners step into formation, boots kicking up red dust under a rising sun. But the atmosphere is strange, not one of misery or fear, but of routine. The guards nod in passing. The American sergeant in charge of roll call, a broad-shouldered man from Oklahoma named Staff Sergeant Bill Hardy, shouts the orders with the weariness of someone who's done this 1,000 times. Becker stands in line, eyes tracing the camp around him. There's a library, a soccer field, even a small chapel built by the prisoners themselves. Beyond the wire, Texan farmland stretches for miles. Endless cotton fields dotted with oak trees. The guards seem unconcerned. Escape is almost impossible. By noon, the work details begin. Prisoners fan out to nearby farms, traveling in open-bed trucks under light guard. Becker finds himself assigned to a cotton farm owned by an elderly couple, the Miller family. They greet the Germans warily at first, but the arrangement is simple. The POWs pick cotton, earn 80 cents a day, and eat at the farm's mess tent. As Becker bends to the rows, sweat soaking his uniform, he realizes the absurdity of it. The son of a dock worker from Hamburg, plucking cotton under the Texas sun for American farmers. Yet there's no hatred here. During breaks, Mrs. Miller brings cold lemonade. The youngest POW, Fritz, stumbles with his English, grinning as she hands him a glass. "Danke, ma'am," he says. She laughs. "You boys aren't so bad after all." Back at camp that evening, the recreation hall glows with lamplight. A hand-painted sign above the door reads, "Kino heute Nacht, Casablanca." Becker hesitates at the doorway, hearing laughter from inside. The projector hums, black and white light flickers over faces both weary and young. Humphrey Bogart appears on screen, cigarette in hand. Someone whistles when Ingrid Bergman enters. It's surreal. Captured soldiers of Hitler's army watching an American film about war and love in occupied Europe. Some clap at the end. Others sit silently, lost in thought. Becker whispers to the man beside him, "If Berlin could see this, they would call it madness." His companion, a quiet Bavarian mechanic, replies softly, "Maybe it's sanity." Over the weeks, life settles into rhythm. There are English lessons, choirs, even theater productions performed by the prisoners. The camp orchestra practices Strauss and Beethoven on salvaged instruments. The Americans, at first skeptical, begin to respect their organization and discipline. One night, as the prisoners eat stew in the mess hall, the loudspeakers crackle to life with a BBC broadcast, news from Europe. Italy has surrendered. The war feels far away, yet painfully near. Becker stares into his tin bowl, the sound of Glenn Miller's Moonlight Serenade drifting in from the guard tower radio. He's supposed to hate the people feeding him, but he can't. Not anymore. Spring 1944, Camp Hearne, Texas. The wind carries the scent of wildflowers through the wire. The days grow longer, the air thicker with heat, and the war, that distant roar from across the ocean, feels like something from another lifetime. The prisoners now move about the camp with an easy rhythm, guarded but not oppressed. To many, it feels more like a factory town than a prison. Becker's mornings start the same. Coffee at sunrise, roll call under the Texas flag, then work at the lumber mill 10 miles away. He has grown lean and sun-darkened, his uniform now a patchwork of American-issued khaki and worn German cloth. When he jokes with Sergeant Hardy, the guard chuckles and calls him Tex. It's half nickname, half irony. One afternoon, during a delivery run, the truck stops near a general store on the outskirts of town. Becker and the others wait outside, 2 guards watching lazily from the shade. Inside, Hardy buys tobacco and a newspaper, the Hearne Democrat. When he returns, Becker catches a glimpse of the front-page headline, "Allied Landings in Normandy." For a long moment, no one speaks. The Germans exchange silent looks. Hardy notices. "Reckon it won't be long now," he mutters, folding the paper under his arm. That night, rumors spread through the barracks like wildfire. Some cheer, others sulk in silence. Becker lies awake, staring at the ceiling boards, trying to imagine his brother, still fighting somewhere near Caen, looking up at the same moon. Weeks later, another delivery brings a shock of a different kind. A convoy of new prisoners arrives from France. Sunburned, exhausted men, many still in Wehrmacht field gray. They stumble off the trucks with hollow eyes and disbelief on their faces. One blurts out, "You're eating meat and white bread?" In the camp mess, their astonishment deepens. They see POWs playing chess, painting signs, even flirting awkwardly with American nurses at the infirmary. One man bursts out laughing, shaking his head. "They said we'd be beaten, starved, that Americans were barbarians." He gestures toward the film projectors set up for that night's show. And instead, They're giving us Charlie Chaplin. Becker smiles, but says nothing. He remembers his own disbelief months ago. He remembers propaganda lectures back home, posters of skeletal Americans whipping prisoners behind barbed wire. Yet here, he's watching the great dictator with a tin of popcorn, surrounded by laughter. But not everyone laughs. At the back of the hall, a handful of die-hard Nazi loyalists sit apart, arms crossed. They sneer at the film, muttering under their breath. Later that week, a prisoner who voiced support for the Allies wakes up with a black eye. The guards notice. They increase night patrols. The war, it seems, has not stayed outside the fence. It lingers inside, like a ghost refusing to die. Still, for most, life moves forward. Becker's English improves. He earns scrip, camp currency, and buys stationery from the canteen. He writes letters home, though he knows many may never arrive. He ends one with words that surprise even him. America is not what we were told. They treat us as men, not enemies. By the summer of 1944, the POW's labor has become vital. They harvest wheat, build irrigation canals, repair rail lines, all for 5 cents an hour, payable in tokens. In return, they receive freedom of movement within the camp, rations of fresh meat, cigarettes, and even the occasional Sunday baseball game. One evening, Becker sits by the wire, watching American kids toss a ball beyond the fence. The smallest boy, maybe 9, waves to him. Becker waves back. For a moment, the war feels impossibly far away. And for the first time, he wonders, what if this is what peace could look like? December 1944. Camp Hearne, Texas. Winter settles over the Texas plains, mild but restless. The camp looks different now. Rows of wooden barracks trimmed with makeshift Christmas decorations, paper stars and pine branches scavenged from nearby woods. For the first time, Oberfeldwebel Hans Becker feels the ache of nostalgia, not for Germany itself, but for what life was before the war, before flags and orders twisted everything. Inside the recreation hall, the prisoners have organized a Weihnachtsfeier, a Christmas celebration. Tables are draped with paper tablecloths, candles flicker in tin cans, and someone has painted a mural of snow-covered mountains on the far wall. The American guards, curious, lean at the doorways watching as the men sing Stille Nacht. Some of them join softly, their English accents flattening the German vowels. When the song ends, Becker glances across the room at Sergeant Hardy. The guard smiles faintly and tips his cap. Becker returns the gesture. It is a small thing, but to him, it feels like peace itself. Something earned quietly, without speeches or flags. Later that night, a delivery truck from town brings new supplies and a newspaper. On the front page, photographs of bombed-out Cologne. Becker stares at the ruined spires of the cathedral. The city of his youth reduced to ash. A quiet dread settles over him. The camp's orchestra begins playing O Tannenbaum, but the notes sound distant, hollow. Outside, snow drifts faintly, a rarity in Texas. Becker steps out into the cold. Through the wire fence, he can see the headlights of passing American trucks on the highway. Inside one cab, soldiers are singing to a radio tune. They laugh. They sound young. He realizes, for the first time, that they are not so different. Both sides made of boys sent far from home by old men who will never see the front lines. Weeks pass. By February 1945, news spreads like wildfire through the barracks. The Allies have crossed the Rhine. Berlin is surrounded. Hitler is dead. For some prisoners, disbelief turns to despair. For others, like Becker, it brings a strange, unbearable relief. When the announcement comes officially, the camp gathers in silence. No cheers, no mourning, just stunned quiet. Becker removes his cap, running a hand over his short-cropped hair. So it's over. Someone whispers. All of it. In the following days, American officers begin preparing repatriation lists. The POWs are told they will be returned to Europe once transportation becomes available. Some can hardly wait. Others, like Becker, hesitate. After 2 years in Texas, the barbed wire has become less a prison than a boundary between past and future. One evening, Sergeant Hardy finds Becker near the fence, watching the sunset. "You'll be heading home soon, Tex," Hardy says. His voice carries a trace of something almost like friendship. Becker nods slowly. "Home," he echoes, though the word feels uncertain. If there is anything left to go back to. Hardy offers him a cigarette. They smoke in silence as the last light fades. Somewhere behind them, laughter erupts from the mess hall. Someone has found an old phonograph record. Glenn Miller again. The music floats across the wire, like a memory of a world still possible. When Becker finally boards the transport train in May 1945, he carries no souvenirs. Only a small Bible given by a camp chaplain, and a folded sketch he drew of the barracks, the garden, and the movie projector. As the train pulls away, he looks out at the waving guards. In his heart, he knows this. The war had shown him the worst of men, but captivity in America, impossibly, had shown him the best.